The At Your End Step podcast is brought to you by ComicTown. Check them out at www.comictown.net and search for ComicTown Gaming Center on Facebook. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And Dave.
Oh, hi.
What is this, the room?
Oh, hi. Hey, Mark.
Hello there.
Lisa!
Oh, man. For the, I'm sure a lot of people got that. So for everyone that laughed at that, good on you. So we have another fun-filled episode for you. This is 101. So, we can make a coat out of the show now.
Are we going to teach people some things?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Probably not. Probably not. When have these ever been educational?
I definitely was going with the... I appreciated the Dalmatians reference more than I like the DIY. Like,
yeah. Both were all right.
Just okay.
They were solid C pluses.
How to make bad jokes 101.
Yeah, there we go. Now we've taught you something. Don't follow in our footsteps. So we have a couple of community topics, some competitive stuff that happened. Mike and I went to a PPTQ along with Keller. There's also a WMCQ that happened in the U.S., which we want to talk about.
Apparently.
Sorry we didn't talk about it, whatever. As well as Eternal Weekend, and then the Open in Charlotte, which was modern, as well as the 2 IQs that happened. Then we have a question of the week this week, and then we have like a bunch of stuff to wrap up at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. With the community, so 6 players apparently were banned for online bullying involving EFRO. Helene Bourgeot announced this via Twitter by linking to an article from the Mothership about 3 years ago, kind of referencing the same sort of thing that they have kind of a zero tolerance policy on this or something of that notion. And there was a Reddit thread about it.
Posted by the leader, quote unquote, of the people who got banned.
Sure.
Mr. Hollywood.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan?
No.
Well, he is a heel.
He nice reference. So in typical Wizards fashion, people got banned. We kind of don't know why they got banned, except they told us why they got banned, but like the actual... It's like the police arresting somebody and then being like, here's some laws, by the way. These may or may not be applicable why we arrested this person. They'll probably talk about it in a online forum later, but we're not going to tell you why they were arrested.
To be fair, in that scenario, though, the laws that are referenced even vaguely... still laws. So it's not like you can just be like, oh, well, we didn't know. No. You did. You did know about these things. You did know that people got in trouble for them.
Well, I mean, like, there was this post 3 years ago that they should have known about this.
I mean, harassment in general is against the actual law.
That's true.
I mean, like, I don't know what you're shocked about.
Threats of violence, typically against the law.
To be fair, so we don't have a lot of specifics. We do know that Efro and people close to him were being harassed by a group of players in Las Vegas. This is on a private Facebook thread. There are some images out there. Most of them don't have anything that I think most players would deem too incriminating. The argument goes back and forth between, like, there was a T-shirt there was an image of, which, I mean, Efro is a public figure in Magic, so then, like, how is that, how are parodies protected? Like, that's awkward, but it definitely, the real issue, I don't think anybody is upset that Wizards is taking action against people who are harassing players. I think the issue that people have brought up is that there is just this lack of transparency is odd.
Yeah, like, somehow they just keep getting it wrong. Like, I don't know how many times there's been something like this that's happened, where it's just like, I don't know. I feel like it would just benefit them more to just outline the situation, maybe go through why they took the actions that they did or why they chose the amount of time that these people are getting banned. I don't know. But yeah, something a little bit more than Helene Bourgeot just posting on Twitter a random...
And it's interesting, too, because our question of the week is going to come back to this, not this specific topic, but something that, is in the same vein of, if people were making posts on private Facebook chats, like, where is the ability for Wizards to step in and others to step in and do something? The authorities, again, we'll get to the other topic.
Right.
But I don't know. People have compared this to a couple recent events. We talked before the show. I mentioned a lot of people were comparing this to Ben Stark's racial slip up on camera. Okay, and you might. I think Dave, you said it's an isolated incident, and I agree with you. But for those who aren't in the know, those are just watching what Wizards does, the lack of transparency doesn't make it look that way. It makes it look like favoritism. Like, who got banned? Oh, the people harassing Efro. Who didn't get banned? Oh, the guy you have on camera, right? And that could be totally incorrect. But until Wizards decides to make a policy that is transparent and easily, we're communicating this to you. These things happened. This is why this is happening. Then it's gonna erupt like this.
Yeah, and like I said, it just happens. This is like every single time. It's like they just find a way to screw up, the announcement. It's just like it doesn't seem that hard.
Now, the one thing I will say is, if you want to discuss court of public opinion, right? And the most, in the most recent one before this, when a player was banned for their past history, there was a rallying cry from the community that they didn't like how this was done. This Reddit post, though, quickly had a lot of people who were very much like, no, you shouldn't have done these things. This is bad. So it is impressive to see that, we don't get to see the full evidence, but in the court of public opinion, at least in that area, those players were essentially deemed guilty. So
yeah, and like you said, in the Reddit thread, there was one specific Facebook like a screenshot that kind of gave you an idea of what was going on. But I guess there were many more that actually eventually got deleted that we can't find anymore.
And I think Efer went out of his way in his multiple posts on that same thread to mention that he gets harassed and criticized all the time. And he's even said in the past that a lot of it was probably rightful. He said before when he was when he would tilt on Twitter or anything, he's like, I wasn't, he's tried to stop doing that. I think the issue for him and for what's going on here is his girlfriend was brought into it, and other people were brought into this who, he's like, I can take this. You shouldn't be harassing these people, though. Mm-hmm. And that's at the end of the day. You can think whatever you want of Efro, you can think whatever you want of them, but you can think of whatever you want of the transparency of Wizards, but try not to, harass people, threaten them, make groups about criticizing them. These are things you should generally not do.
Correct. But the whole transparency thing just reminds me of if you were ever punished as a kid and you didn't understand why, but you just were, and it just left you with more questions than answers and it made you more upset and angry. That's kind of what Wizards does a lot of times. It's like, oh, we punish these players. We're not going to tell you why. We'll tell the players why, obviously, but and you'll kind of just be left in the lurch. And I don't know why these things have to be left so mysterious.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody generally knows the rules. Don't bully people online. That's common sense. But I feel like if you make an example of people, maybe people would be less, inclined to do something, or maybe even something that's borderline. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to stay away from this.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting is that Wizards came out and made such a huge stance against, Crackgate a long time ago, and this same article was cited then, so they could have literally even had a comparison point for it wasn't acceptable when this person did it, it's not acceptable now. You know what I mean? So they even have a point of reference recently where they did come out and were pretty transparent about it, and they still won't do that. So I do have a question though. How often were you just randomly punished as a child? I don't remember not being if I was getting punished, it's because I did something.
No, but
it was hey, we're mad at you.
It's not a personal story. My parents were very good with giving me structure and reasons why I would be punished. But I mean, it happens.
It's called abuse. If you just get punished for things you haven't done and they won't communicate why,
right.
I'm actually being serious. That's abuse. You should, if you're nodding your head in agreement to Morgan's story, I got punished a lot and didn't know why.
There's something wrong.
You may have had a bad childhood. I'm really sorry. Jeez,
why
Morgan.
are you making me laugh about this?
Because I don't even know what tone I'm supposed to be using right now. Just as you said that, I was letting it ruminate, and I'm just that doesn't sound right.
Well, yeah, Morgan's so confused right now. He's laughing at.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I feel for my friend. I hope you're okay.
I was not abused as a child, and that's what you're getting at.
I'm glad.
I'm just saying that sometimes people get frustrated, obviously, when they don't have a clear, direct message to follow. And that's what Wizards is doing. They're confusing us because they're not being direct.
So I guess, in that vein, I guess I understand your point. Because the argument for being a child and for apparently playing Magic is just be good.
Right.
And good is not at all a subjective term.
Yeah.
So just
basically.
Be good. Then I won't have to get
But I mean,
the wooden spoon again. I don't know.
Not to continue beating a dead horse or anything like that. But I mean,
Jeez, what's with the abuse?
but in like sports, in professional sports, like if someone gets suspended or something like that, it is public knowledge. Like you know why a lot of the time.
It's actually interesting why you bring that up, seeing as the players union in the NFL is currently suing the NFL for not actually being transparent in their reasoning for punishment.
Oh, interesting.
So it's actually probably similar to the lust for power in most of the major sports more than anything else.
Gotcha.
Awkward, I know.
I thought it was more transparent.
It depends on the thing. Like certain offenses are really transparent. Like PED offenses have gotten a lot better. But when it comes down to like personal conduct, especially in the NFL, it's really up to one guy, and he can kind of do what he wants with it.
Interesting.
So players messed up. They could have negotiated not to have that happen. We haven't had the option to go negotiate. Maybe we should unionize.
Maybe
Magic players unite.
That seems like a good idea.
Can we make the next set? Magic Gathering unions.
From
Solidarity.
the vault unions.
Things like Goblin, like team leader.
I mean, this sounds great. I don't see how we could do any wrong with this.
Can we have like Tomb of Kafka? It's like an artifact. I'm really happy with that joke, and I retire.
It was very good. We're all very impressed. Anyway, let's move on to better news. The new Scry Mulligan rule is actually going to be implemented in full, starting with the Battle for Zendikar pre-releases. So that's pretty cool. Pretty exciting.
You know, I'm excited for this, but I will say this is actually the same issue as the last one. Like, hey, we're gonna test this out and gather data. Well, except we're not gonna get any data. We're just gonna wing it.
Yeah, I know. Like even as the Pro Tour was going on, people were on Twitter like, "Hey, so how are you guys actually like measuring? How are you measuring this?" Like, "Oh, well, we're gonna look at it after the fact." It's like, okay, well,
so we're gonna watch 15 camera matches,
and then like 2 weeks later, they're like, "Oh yeah, we've determined that this is what we want to do."
Well, the argument too they said afterwards is, well, we'll collect real data in Moto. Like that's where we're gonna get our points of information. What? Where did that go?
That didn't actually happen.
Like, I'm definitely a defender of this. I think this is a good idea, and as someone who had a sad Mulligan story this weekend, I would have really enjoyed some Scry action.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's just interesting that they're just like I guess the argument is when you have a good enough idea, you just do it. But like once again, pretending like you're gonna do other things, like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. You also have to imagine that this has done, like, people have done testing with this in FFL, in the Future League.
Yeah, but there's like 10 people in the FFL.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, like, it's probably happened because the Scry Mulligan rule has further impacts in constructed. So if this is something they were thinking about doing and introducing, then all constructed FFL testing would have had to do this with this in place.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean,
I believe
we did Scry Mulligan the other night when we were cubing. That's about the same.
I scried once. I don't know if I have a good opinion points on it. And
sure.
To be quite honest, I don't know if that's automatically true. Like when we talked to Stott, he says that most of like the Future League and development and then the rule stuff is separated. So who knows when those are actually brought together? Because if you don't know for sure you're going to make the change, they can't have done all their games testing that way. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's neither here nor there on that one. I think it's just odd. Again, it could be just a good enough idea. We'll love it. The argument coming out of the Pro Tour seemed to be they loved it for limited and were wary of it in certain constructed matches. But then again, Mono Red had such a high performance at the Pro Tour that I think people would be wary in general. So I'll be excited for it. I'm glad to get to use it. I don't understand, once again, the pretending like we've done something else. Like, oh, we did a lot of research. What? You went to Wikipedia? No. We did a lot of research. Hard facts.
Again, this is one of those transparency things where we have no idea what they've done. They're just kind of doing it.
Yeah, so is this the argument where the lack of transparency means they could have done more research that we're giving them credit for? I don't like that scenario. Yeah. I hate that scenario,
yeah,
actually.
It's bad. But it'll be exciting. Again, it's something that I'm pretty excited for in Limited. The mulligans in Limited can be so punishing. So having a little bit of a helper per se in those matches will be kind of nice. So
agreed.
And it's a good time to implement it because pre-releases will all be limited. So
hey, Eldrazi are hard to beat. We need as many things as we can to beat
True.
them.
That's true.
We're battling
Allies,
for Zendikar here. Okay.
scrying,
Gotta
awakening,
awaken things, rain dances.
landfalls.
Thank you.
All right. So let's move into the competitive segment of the show. Over the weekend, we went to a PPTQ. Mike, me. I put it at me when I said Mike.
You did.
Which made no sense.
I'm worried about what the implication of that is.
I will soon be Mike, and Mike will be no one.
Wow, it's really harsh.
And then no, I don't know who's Morgan. It doesn't really matter. No, Mike, me, and Keller all went to a PPTQ. It was a 51-person PPTQ in Findlay, Ohio. It was Post Board Games was the name of the store. Really nice store, actually. Very spacious on the inside, which is great for a 51-person PPTQ.
And I'll be very honest, we drove past it, and like they're in a location where like their next door is like a car dealership, and like it definitely like I'm gonna tell you right now, like we were like, well, this area seems interesting, like I don't know, and then you walked in the store and it was huge.
Yeah,
it was huge,
and they had an expansive stock of both standard, modern, legacy, anything you want, sealed product even, which was pretty cool to see.
They had like Portal 3 Kingdoms like pre-con decks.
Yeah,
it was actually pretty insane.
And it was so big because it was the first PPTQ of the season. And it was the only one in Ohio that day, as far as I researched. And I was looking at the big list they have on the Wizards site. So it was a lot of fun. And then it was standard, obviously. And it was the first time I had played standard I can't actually remember the last time I played standard. I'll be perfectly honest. Like, it's either been modern or draft. So it had been quite some time. I pretty much hadn't played standard since like maybe Dragons. Dragons was the last time that I actually played standard. Since Origins come out, obviously I haven't played. So, but I'll start with my story, I guess. So I played Abs and Aggro. It was the Hangerback Aggro list. Went 4-2. Lost to Mike in the Swiss. And lost to another actual local player who was there playing Green White Devotion, which we discussed afterward. And that's probably it's probably just a bad matchup for Abzan Hangerback Aggro. So I didn't feel too bad. The games against Mike, I can't really remember them.
We played 3 games.
We played 3 games. Mm-hmm. Okay, that seems well enough then. I remember you having Warden of the First Tree a lot.
The first 2 games I did. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it's really good when you get to play that guy turn 1. It's like
I might have had a game 3 actually, because it's very good post board when you have to cut your ultimate prices. Like when that comes down, it's like, oh, I hope I have an Abzan charm.
Yeah.
No, I just have a question because I didn't attend, but did you guys copy any of the lists from London, or did you tweak any of the lists, or like what did your deck list look like?
I think we both looked at the not the winning list. We probably leaned more towards the list that Mengucci talked about in his article on Channel 5.
Marco Camiluzzi.
The Camiluzzi list.
So Mengucci had an aggregate list of all of the decks in the top 16, and was looking at the numbers from them, and I sort of drew from there. So like I played a Warden, a Wingmate Rock in the main one of the board, and only played 3 Den Protectors. So it was like between 2 and 4 Den Protectors, between 0 and 1 Wingmate Rocks, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think the full 4 Den Protectors is not necessarily correct. It can be in some.
The card's great, but it's really clunky.
Yeah.
So it definitely it's a 5-drop essentially that does not affect the board like your 4-drop or your 3-drop.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're going to do things like play Wingmate Rock, then you have to make cuts on your 5-drops. You can't just obviously play a bunch of them.
Removal wise, I definitely played I wanted the full 4 commands and I wanted the full 4 Abzan Charm because I thought those 2 cards were definitely draws to playing the deck. So I definitely only had 1 Hero's Downfall in the 75 and never wanted the second one. Never wanted it. So,
yeah, I have to agree with you at that point. Having the 1 Hero's Downfall was fine. I also had a Valor Stance in my list, and then I basically played 3-1 of removal spells, 1 Ultimate Price in the main, 1 Hero's Downfall, and 1 Valor Stance. And then I had another Ultimate Price in the sideboard, but I cut 1, so it went from 3 to 2 compared to the list that showed up in London. And then I played an Elspeth main as well.
Which that's what I lost to in game 2 or game 1. I lost game 1. I won the next 2. Game 1 definitely I thought I was going to win that game, and he's like tap 6. I was like, "Do you have Elspeth in the main?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh no,
Yeah,
I took a really bad line then."
So you're saying you only had one downfall? You say?
Yeah. So but I will say I lost 2 games in Abs and Mirrors during the day to Elspeth's. Still didn't want Heroes Downfalls. Mm-hmm. So in that case, Wingmate Rock was the card that was obscene.
Yeah.
And also that's where I would rather have the 4th Den Protector than the Hero's Downfall, because it just does something better than Hero's Downfall and still kills Elspeth's.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I have to agree with that. That was my plan was to basically try to beat the other Abs and Aggro list by playing the main deck Elspeth and having 2 Wingmate Rocks main.
it wasn't bad. I will definitely agree there.
And then like it's one of those things where it's like Wingmate Rock was good this weekend, and who knows how long it'll continue to be good. But it's pretty good against other Abzan lists. So, but I really enjoyed the list. Like I said, I haven't played Standard in forever and still win 4-2. I got 12th place overall, so I got some 2 packs. Oh boy! But it was nice because typically with the payouts for PPTQs, they could range for only paying out the top 8 to paying out to like top 32.
This one actually did range too. They added tiers based on how many players are there.
Correct.
So.
But it was we decided that it was definitely a store we'd go visit again. It's not that bad of a drive.
I do wish they wouldn't start at 1:00.
Yeah, that was the rough thing. Starting at 1 with these PPTQs is a little rough, especially when there's 6 rounds. So
see, that actually impacted my day as well.
Oh yeah, because we were late for Cube.
Yeah, you guys casually stroll in at 11.
That wasn't the only reason we were late for Cube. Segue to my story.
Yeah.
No, I also played Hangerback Abzan, and Morgan and I discussed the list a little bit. I tried to get some testing in with it. I got to play it at F&M, which was nice. I will say, random shout out for F&M at Comic Town. I lost 1 round to the craziest mono blue concoction I've ever.
Yeah, it was the mono blue like artifact devotion.
Yeah,
it was a deck on Magic Online. It got featured somewhere.
Maybe
I think.
Jerry T. I don't know.
It may have been Jerry T. It might have been on MTG Goldfish. It was something like that.
All I know is I lost a match in Standard to multiple Sidisi's Faithfuls, and I still don't know how I feel about that. So, but anyways, so I didn't feel like I had as much testing with the deck as I wanted to. But the one thing I did, like, if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you know that Abzan, like aggro and control, not generally my styles of deck. Especially Abzan controls was something I just felt was like super dirtily and like, but not dirtily in the way like if I'm going to dirtle, I want to end the game with like 90 cards in hand, and like Abzan control doesn't do that. I was like, I don't know what we're doing, but this deck felt good. Tested it, felt even better, and then took it to this PPTQ and lost in the finals. So. I mean, I sort of pride myself on doing a good job of preparing for tournaments, like as far as getting a lot of games in, regardless of, the quality of those games, via whatever means I'm able to, and I did not get nearly as many reps into this deck as I wanted to, and the deck just felt obscene. Mm-hmm. Like, I've played a lot of good decks in Standard. I played Esper Dragons at the height of its powers, and it was great, and I enjoyed Jeskai at Regionals, and it was really good, and then this deck, though, felt better than both of those decks. It just does crazy things.
Yeah, I think you said something interesting there. You said like you just want to get in games, like no matter like, whether they're good or not. And I think there's something to be said for that because, like, I kind of feel the same way. Like obviously I don't get to play as much as I used to. So like, but like even just playing like going to an FNM or just like jamming some random games in between rounds, like you can actually gain a lot of insight into how the deck works or like little tricks that like you may not think of without actually playing the deck.
Yeah.
So I mean that's definitely important.
And even to give some perspective on what Mike's saying about the deck in general, I played 0 games of this particular version of Abs and Aggro and still win 4-2. I played Abs and Aggro like a little bit before like the Dragons of Tarkir version of Abs and Aggro. But having played 0 games with this version, deck's dumb.
And to that point too, we played at an event in Finley, so I don't want to like talk it up too much. But there are a lot of really good regional players there.
Yeah.
Or 2/3 of the team that took 6th place in Detroit was there. Mm-hmm. Okay, like and.
And he won.
I did.
No. He won the guy, the gentleman.
He had won regionals. He had won regionals for Comic Town. So there were a lot of good players there. So it's definitely saying something. That the deck is it's a pilot too, but the deck is very powerful. But to your point, Dave, too, like especially like a deck like Abs and Aggro, you're playing 26 lands. And sequencing is so important. We were talking on the way up about how bad Urborg was in the deck, and I don't think it's something I would have recognized immediately had I not played the game, the decks a bunch, or just gotten some games in. Because there's a lot of hands where if you have Urborg, it's like your second land in that, you just have to mulligan it. You can't even play the hand. You can't cast anything.
Yeah, that card is probably a lot better when you were playing Death Dealers,
right? Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Hitting you needed more black and like Bio Blades and stuff like that.
Like,
but this deck doesn't run those. So.
I still ended up playing the card, but we definitely discussed like putting another temple in over it. And it's the kind of thing, and again, the sequencing, I'm always harping on sequencing because I think it's really important. And these 3-color decks that are playing a curve out game, like you have to sequence.
Mm-hmm.
So I went 5-1 in the Swiss. I lost to mono red once in the Swiss, which is a little frustrating, just because it's a pretty good matchup for the deck. But he was definitely solid with the deck and had some some good draws. Got in the top 8. Had to play Keller in the top 8 awkwardly.
Yeah. Keller had to speak for him. He had a pretty good one. He was X1-1.
Yeah, he went 1-1-1 and then top 8'd, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So, it sort of worked. So my opponent didn't want to draw in the last round of Swiss, and I honestly wasn't totally sure why. But we ended up having to play, and it worked out pretty well for both of myself and Keller because it made sure there was a slot for him, and I got to take the second seed, which was nice. I then in the semis played against Mono Red again, actually the same exact list because the two players had come together. I was able to beat him 2-0, and then in finals, kept an average hand. I still think I would keep the hand that I kept in game 1. It was Lands, Den Protector, and Offenza, but it was like Scryland and no Pain. And I knew how the matchup went. I was on the play. I didn't draw another spell until the turn that I died. I drew an ultimate price the turn that lethal was on the board. So it was like, okay, well, I guess rightfully punished for keeping not such a gassy hand, and I mulled the 4 in game 2.
Yeah,
made a real game out of it. I'm still proud of myself for that.
It was a great it was a pretty good game for a mull to before I really thought that you were going to take that game and force a game 3. In all honesty,
definitely like if his hand ended up being double Stoke the Flames at the end. So pretty much if it had been like average cards, I might have had a chance, but it was the best cards.
Yeah.
So, but congrats to him. I felt good. It felt good to get to go and play in the PPTQ, and then I almost shut myself out for another 3 months.
I honestly said to him during the PTQ, I was like, you realize you're setting yourself up for this again, where you're going to win the first PPTQ of the season and then not be able to play Magic until the RPTQ.
So we were discussing splits at the end, and like a split was suggested where like one of us could take the bulk of the prize, and the other person would take the invite. And like I looked at Morgan for a second. I'm just like, you know what? I harped on him so much for doing that. Like, no, we gotta split this up.
I mean, I couldn't have said anything if he did that. I would have been like, yeah.
Oh, you totally could have. I harassed you a bunch for that. You totally could have.
Like,
but
isn't that what you do? I don't know.
No, because like I did it. So like that's terrible. It would be terrible for me to do it. It's easy for you to make fun of me for doing it because you've never done it yourself.
Honestly, I stayed clean then. Kept that nose clean.
Exactly.
That's what you gotta do.
So I couldn't have said anything back.
It was a fun tournament. Yeah, definitely. It was a late night though. Like when you end up playing 3 rounds, like you're playing a 9-round tournament. Like think about like if you ever played a 9-round tournament in an open and how late of a night that was, and you started at 10 in the morning. So that's all I would suggest. Store was great. Thanks to Postboard Games for hosting and running a good tournament in general. But definitely reconsider some of the late start times.
Yeah, we'll be back. Hopefully, you just start a little earlier. We would appreciate that.
I think they have an IQ on the 19th actually, which had some really gross. Like the prizes overall were okay, but like if you won first place, you got like a modern starter pack plus money and invitational.
It wasn't bad. So, moving on to the World Magic Cup qualifier that was held during Eternal Weekend. It was in Philadelphia, and it was standard, and it was won by Joel Sadowski, playing green-white, the Kibler deck, if you will. Defeated Andy Boswell, playing Abs and Aggro in the finals. Joel is going to join Mike Sigrist on the U.S. National team for the World Magic Cup, so congratulations to him. The other notable top 8s include Steve Rubin, Matt Costa, and Craig Wesco, which is pretty awesome to see. Man, Steve Rubin's just trying to do it all.
Yeah. He probably flew straight out to Seattle for Worlds after that.
Yeah, probably. You know what? I don't know if we were once we. I guess this is like the time to talk about it since it's this week, right? So I'm gonna say that I think Steve Rubin could take it down.
I mean, has he done enough to steal the hardest working man in Magic title away from Calcano? Like, has he done that? Like,
Probably not. Calcano has a lot of years of doing that. But he seems to be putting up some good numbers, and yeah, I hope that he does it. And it's something to say that we also have to not mention that he does have to play against a 2-time world champion Shahar Shahar to do so back to back.
hey, back to back and maybe the back. Who knows? But
yeah, back to back, man.
Awkwardly, and I know Dave, you were a little frustrated about this, but there wasn't a lot of good coverage for this, and we don't even have like deck lists for this.
When you say there wasn't a lot of good coverage,
there's no
you mean
coverage.
there was zero coverage?
But I will say, Craig Wesco's deck was posted. He took third place, I believe, and he was playing Mono White Devotion.
Yeah. To a shock of no one.
Featuring, of course, as many, not as many, I guess there are more, but almost as many Savannah Lions as he could, 4 Kythians and 4 Soldiers of the Pantheon. But no Elspeths in the main was the interesting thing about his list. He overloaded on Wingmate Rocks, though. He had 4 in the 75 and 3 in the main. So he was not trying to Elspeth a lot. He was trying to make sure he didn't die to Elspeth. So the deck seemed, sort of spicy, and definitely was able to do some interesting things with like Tragic Arrogance, and it was interesting.
I think like if you're expecting a lot of Abzan, which I think at this point you have to, especially with all the hangback decks doing well in London, 4 Wingmate Rocks is probably a good place to be.
Yeah, it's definitely not bad. It makes all of the removal in the Abzan deck feel really bad. Like if you're holding an Abzan charm and you're like, okay, if they play a Rhino, I'll just charm it, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll attack with my Hangback Walker, which you don't really want to block. It's not a profitable way to do it, but then you take the damage and they play the Wingmate Rock, your board all of a sudden just looks awful. So, also Hangback Walker, disgusting. That Magic card's disgusting.
Yeah.
We haven't even got the vintage yet, but it shows up there.
It's a good Magic card. It ain't bad.
I have
why?
6 of them.
Why did we ignore it? I don't understand why we didn't say more about it.
Because I had so much text. I don't know.
I think we'll have to revisit that once, or I guess the week before we do the Battle for Zendikar when we look back, because there were a lot of misses. I think
I feel like we're gonna listen to our thing we said about Hangback Walker and just hear like error in the background, like, oh no.
I don't know if I'm ever gonna live down my assessment of Jace, Vryn's prodigy. So that's probably the worst.
I glad I at least said it was playable. That helps.
That's probably the worst ever.
Hey, again, you got to do what I've done. Chapin said it was awful and unplayable too. So you've got an out.
Pretty much everybody did. But yeah, going back to the WMCQ, it was pretty frustrating for me. Like I feel like, and go off on a little tangent here. Like I feel like the World Magic Cup is right up there with the World Championships. What's this? I
was wondering if we were doing a small segment here. Dave sort of asked if he could
do
a little,
we grinding?
A little. He wanted to grind some tears.
Yeah, I didn't know what the hand motion meant.
It's an organ grinder.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, or it could just be like the kind of musical grinder. We got Dancing Monkey. Like,
okay. So once you stop, I have to stop.
Sure. All right.
Let's not play this game.
So personally, I feel like obviously they've done away with how they used to do the team World Championships, and now they have the World Magic Cup instead, which I think is great. Yeah, I think they've done a great job with that and great job expanding it. Pretty much every year they have more and more countries. So that is essentially the World Championship for teams. So they've done such a good job the past couple weeks, basically since the Pro Tour, really hyping up the World Championships. And I feel like once we get closer to the World Magic Cup, which is a little later this year, they'll probably do something similar. And the fact that they are not covering or really even advertising the World Magic Cup qualifiers is just really odd to me.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that, especially since, I don't know like when the WMCQ was taking place and what else was going on and what was actually being covered on Card Titan stream, because we'd have to. They only have so much room, that they can realistically use to cover this. If nothing else was going on, then why wouldn't you do this, or at least set aside time to maybe cover the finals, or some of the top 8. I could definitely see that, and maybe they just don't register this as being a big tournament as like an open or something like that. So thanks for hitting the mic.
Sorry.
Let's put it this way: you could have watched the Italian World Magic Cup on stream, but not the United States one.
Well, sure. What's going on in Italy other than that?
There was more.
At least magic-wise,
That's
not the actual country.
Not what he said, ladies and gentlemen. Not what he said.
It's what I meant.
There was more coverage of Kibler's bachelor party than this World Magic Cup.
That may be true, but there was other things going on in that tournament hall. So it's not like they could just have a billion cameras and a billion streams. They only have so much bandwidth.
And you can't cross the streams.
Correct.
So actually, that's the point I want to make, and I sort of hinted this to you earlier, Dave. But I don't feel like these events are that special. They're large PPTQs to me. The event that they're leading into is special, and that will get the coverage it deserves. But I don't think these qualifiers are something that really has to have this. I mean, yes, you had a lot of names in the top 8, right? It was also won by a guy I've never heard of.
I don't think it's fair to say that they're large PPTQs because it's not like you're just
PTQs. I don't mean
PTQs or RPTQs, whatever. Because it's not like it's just like you're some random person that's qualifying for a pro tour and maybe we'll never see you, on coverage. This is the World Magic Cup. You're representing your country.
And there's a high chance we'll never see them on camera, anyways.
I'm pretty sure you'll see the United States team.
Yeah, but it doesn't. I guess.
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like. I feel like they need to do a better job of hyping up these qualifiers because to me it is a big deal.
And sure, and maybe it is. I think the World Magic Cup is a cool event. I enjoy watching it, and it is prestigious. But I don't think these qualifiers are that like the Olympics are a prestigious world event. How many times are you watching the qualifying rounds over the last 4 years of any of those events?
Okay, no, that's a fair point. I just think like if you look at this top 8, I mean you have Steve Rubin, Matt Costa, Craig Wesco, Andy Boswell. I mean these are all names. I mean I would have loved to watch this top 8. And I'm sure there were other pros in attendance that would have been well worth watching. So it's like why not?
And the regionals in the Virginia area also had a bunch of named pros in the top 8, and they didn't cover that. I get the pitchforks.
Okay, but you understand what I'm saying.
I know, and I'm playing devil's advocate to you. I mean I don't think it's wrong to want. The argument saying like they just don't have enough, that might be true in that scenario. I don't think it's wrong to want more coverage, but sure, maybe they should hype up the events more. Maybe they should get more information out there for them. But I don't think Wizards cares very much, and I don't think I blame them. I don't think they care very much who wins those things. There's a reason the captains are chosen the way they are, so they have at least their one premier name per team. After that, whoever's going to be there, it doesn't matter. They're going to run the event either way. So I don't feel like I hold it against them that these aren't, given the amount of prestige and coverage that maybe they could. Deck lists would be nice, sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe some written coverage would be nice.
Anything, yeah. But
in general, I don't think this is a big deal.
Okay. I mean, it was.
I'm not saying I'm automatically right. By all means, I'm not.
Yeah, no, it was frustrating for me because I was trying to find, trying to find out what was going on. Do want to give a shout out to Joe Spanier and LSV who were basically live tweeting the top 8, like what was going on, and that was basically the coverage. So, had to do a little bit of detective work there on Twitter if you wanted to know what was going on. But yeah, it was a little unfortunate there. But.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is. It would be nice to this information to be easily accessible and. I mean, when you have this is still I would say a premier level event, even if it is on a lesser scale, and having access to some amount of coverage for it would be nice.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You're saying premier level event, like they don't have GPs on the weekends that they have the World Magic Cup qualifiers, and that should tell you something. Like they want this to be a big deal. They want the pros to try to qualify for this. So I don't know, but
it certainly would.
In any case, maybe we'll get them next time.
I will say, because you mentioned here that the next U.S. Qualifier is in California next weekend, or I guess weekend after next. Yep. Hosted by Channel Fireball. See, I knew that. Do you know why I knew that?
Because Channel Fireball
has been advertising it, and I think it comes down to that. it's up to them to, just like GPs. Wizards has their GP list. They'll push GPs. They'll do coverage, but at the same time, it is up to the TO to push everything else. So I feel like it's sort of how they feel about this. Maybe it's yet another poor reflection on Card Titan, and I hate to take a shot at them. This qualifier Geddon, as it were.
No, I mean, but by all accounts, like Card Titan.
I thought it was Card. I thought they.
No.
I apologize.
No,
I retract
not
that.
Card
My
Geddon.
apologies.
No,
I retract that.
yeah.
I thought they were the same.
Just cards everywhere.
Sorry, Card Titan. It's not your fault. It's mine.
I was gonna say, by all accounts, Card Titan ran a great tournament, a great weekend.
Haven't seen it.
But yeah, so I was gonna say, so I understand what you're saying about, this is how it is and it's on the TOs, but it's like it doesn't have to be that way. Like I don't know. I guess I wish Wizards got a little bit more involved with the qualifiers because I think they should be a bigger deal than what they're making them.
Well, they can't do everything, okay? They've got to make dinner every night, and they've got to run your children all across the country.
They got to ban people and not let you know.
Yeah, it's very important.
It's very important. We can't cover this. We've got to ban people and then cover our tracks.
What do you think we've been doing all this time?
Dear Lord.
Now, some other notable WMCQ winners that happened were Andrea Mengucci from Italy won the Italian WMCQ, and then Alexander Hayden from Canada won the Canadian one. So
yeah, so those two countries are definitely off to a great start.
It sounds like it.
Good.
I'm sorry, Italy. I didn't mean to infer that there was nothing going on in your country other than the Italian WMCQ. I apologize. You clearly had lots of other things going on. You're very busy. I understand. And we already said that the next one is going to be held by Channel Fireball on September 5th. So
that's going to be a modern one, too.
That will be pretty sweet. Hopefully we'll know some more news about that.
I believe they're going to have streaming coverage for that.
That would make
I'm
sense.
Not 100%.
They have their own coverage team, so
yes.
that would be something that they could do. And there's nothing else going on in California, so
Jeez.
They never have anything going on out there.
He's making a lot of assumptions about
barren,
that.
California's a barren wasteland.
I mean, it's kind of going that way. I don't know if you guys have seen the news, but they're running out of water over there.
Oh, that wasn't that far off.
They've had celebrities like stealing water from other townships and stuff. It's all bad.
Yeah, it's not good. Poor California. Sorry. So, obviously, there's also Eternal Weekend that happened. So there were the Legacy Championships and the Vintage Championships. Legacy was won by Bob Huang, playing 4-color Delver. And then Vintage was won by Brian Kelly, playing Dragon Lord Salvager's Oath. I have no idea what this deck does.
So...
It plays Oath of Druids.
It's an Oath of Druids
that.
deck, and it has the Salvagers combo, so you get the RX Salvagers, Black Lotus to get infinite mana. I guess Dragon Lord's Dramoka was the Dragon Lord that was played, and
makes sense.
Seems good at Vintage.
Pretty good.
Yeah, seems good. I do think it's fitting that Bob Huang won the Legacy Championship, since he was the first person to play Treasure Cruise in Legacy when that came out, because it wasn't immediately adopted. I mean, it didn't take too long. It was like 2 weeks
Correct.
after it was
right,
legal.
Exactly.
But he was the first one to play 4 Treasure Cruise, and it was kind of like a weird thing at the time. Like, oh man, like, and then it just went on to just be banned. So it was like, oh, so it's pretty cool.
I do have a bone to pick with these. Like, it's cool that they have these. I'm sad that they don't have them at Gen Con anymore, because that was like the first Gen Con I went to. They still had them there, and you could see like the big oversized cards. But speaking of those oversized cards, I'm tired of them commissioning art for cards that they can never print, because the champions of each tournament, the Legacy one won a new art Tundra, not the Tundra art they had for Magic Online or the original one. It was an actual new art. They paid someone to paint. And then they had for the Vintage Championship Mox Emerald, I believe. They had a new Mox Emerald, both painted, and they actually won the painting of it, which is actually pretty cool, as well as the oversized card. Wizards, stop this madness. If you're going to have them win a card, at least make it something you could realistically print. Stop commissioning new arts for cards you'll never make again.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It kind of makes sense. I mean, they're iconic cards in those formats.
I guess. And, theoretically, they could put out a new... those will just be Magic Online arts, right? That's what they'll do with them.
It'd be super lame if they're like, oh, the Legacy Champion wins Deathrite Shaman. Like,
Yeah,
it's like
I
card that
know.
we printed in the last couple of years.
but it's just like,
Vintage
man.
wins a hangerback walker. Like, wait, what?
I'm glad you got all these arts commissioned and don't have any money to apparently to put into Magic Online. Shots fired. No, I just saw that.
Hashtag hot take.
I just saw that and I was like, why? Because like, and then in that, like I said, they'll probably just be arts that they'll put on, special Magic Online promos or what have you, like they've done with previous ones in the past. But it's just it is my personal gripe and is very small and minute, so I won't harp on it any longer. Moving on. So we also had the Open in Charlotte, and it was Modern because you can only play Modern in Charlotte. Total of 509 players, and it was won by Jund. I can talk about Jund on the podcast and not be chastised. It was Joe Herrera, who has done well in the Open Series circuit before.
Yeah, this is his second win.
Yeah. He defeated Hunter Nance playing Merfolk, which, I would not want to be necessarily playing Merfolk against Jund. They do have a lot of removal spells, it turns out, which are pretty good against a creature-based deck. But it's interesting to see that, Merfolk, which is sometimes a very below-the-radar deck, definitely found its tournament to kind of, rise to the top a little bit in the hands of Hunter Nance. So it's kind of an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, Merfolk was actually Hunter was on camera a bunch throughout the weekend.
Yes, he was.
Merfolk was pretty impressive. I'll be honest. I mean, it's definitely a deck that I have kind of undermined a little bit in the past, and I know you guys have played it more than I have in Modern. It's really I don't know. I think it's an easy deck to overlook, but it was pretty good. Yeah. 4 Harbinger of the Tides.
That's really the new hotness there. Now, I don't know if you guys saw, but the Jund deck actually had a little bit of Magic Origins in it with one Abbot of Carol Keep.
Yes.
Now, this is something that Willie Idol has been talking about on Twitter, so it's not surprising to kind of see it here, but you know what? Something like that's just like card advantage as well as getting like prowess is in a deck that does have a not a small amount of spells is pretty awesome. Also, just like being able to buy it back with Colgan's command is pretty hot. So
sometimes you just need a little bit more value.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting that even it turns on even things like Dead Inquisitions, like in those games where you're in those top decks, like drew a discard spell. At least it says target creature gets +1/+1.
Yeah. No joke. I wouldn't actually see this maybe starting to take over the Dark Confidant slot now. In Herrera's list, he still has the 4 Dark Confidants, which still do a lot of work, but I wouldn't be surprised to kind of see that change. Also in his sideboard, he's definitely playing like 2 Damnations, which makes me sad inside because I only own 1 Damnation and I don't want to have to buy a second one.
You could have gotten that sweet one this weekend. You didn't do it.
Yeah. There was the story went to definitely had a full art foil Damnation for 60.
Promo.
Yeah, and I just can't. I couldn't justify it, man. I just couldn't justify it. I wanted it real bad, but I couldn't do it.
You could probably get away honestly with playing like 1 Languish and 1 Damnation.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Languish is real bad against opposing Tarmogoyfs. I don't think you understand how bad it can be.
It's true, but it depends on what you're playing against. Like against Merfolk, for example, you can sweep up their board. You can sweep up their board and keep your Tarmogoyfs.
Or it could also be terrible.
Well, I don't think against Merfolk it's going to get that out of control where they're all like 6/6s.
I mean, they'll have to be 5/5s.
Whatever.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? But yeah, going back to Abbott, I think like. You could definitely see this card pop up more. Like I would expect it to see more play in Burn actually. Because I don't know, like
that's certainly a possibility. It's hard to figure out in Burn what you take out for it, which I think is the major issue. I know that in Jund you have a lot of flexible slots. Like sometimes Dark Confidant's good, sometimes Dark Confidant is really bad. So it's it definitely can change from week to week. But Burn, I don't know that deck well enough to know like what you would remove.
Yeah, well, the only reason why I say Burn is because if you're playing this type of card in Modern, and Modern, for the most part, you're playing 1, 2, 3 mana spells, and that's pretty much it. There are very few cards 4 and up that see play. So you definitely want to be playing a deck full of cheap proactive spells. So you don't really want to play it in something with a lot of counter spells because they don't hit. So some burn is definitely proactive and it doesn't mind playing cards on its own turn. I know Chapin had posted like an interesting blue-red tempo list that I don't know if it's very good, but it's definitely a cool idea. Kind of like a blue-red aggressive Delver list. I don't know if it's better than the Grixis Delver list out there,
Right?
But just an idea. So I mean, it's definitely a card to keep an eye on because I think it could see more play as time goes on here.
Oh yeah, for sure. I fully believe that people kind of come around and seen the power level on it, and even when we take a look at Chandra's Zero, and that that version of Chandra sees play in Modern occasionally. So having that in a smaller form factor is definitely still good.
Yeah, prowess is just so much better in Modern.
Yeah.
You just have free spells and really powerful 1-mana spells like Lightning Bolt.
For sure. Now, other notable people in this top 8 were Tom Ross playing Infect, Logan Mize playing Abs and Company, and Michael Majors playing Grixis Control with 4 Jason Vern's Prodigy, which I know that Keller played a version of Grixis Control that had a one of Jace, and he seemed to think it was the bee's knees. I don't know if 4 is necessarily where you want to be at, but when this was going, it definitely did a whole lot of work for Majors.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like we talk about how so you're going to play a bunch of creatures that die Lightning Bolt and also die to Kolaghan's Command. So the card has to be very, very good to still be worth it. And apparently the card was still very, very good. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, his list was, I mean, it wasn't even just the 4 Jace's main, but he definitely is playing 0 Gurmag Anglers, which is a staple in these types of decks. Also, no Cryptic Commands.
Yeah, you see the move towards a little more black to support Liliana.
Yeah, he was playing the 4 Inquisitions main, a couple Lilianas. So he's playing a little bit more of a proactive plan, I guess. Though it's a little bit less aggressive. Like at least like the I guess the standard list can kind of get I guess more chance of a quick Tassiger or a quick Gurmag Angler, which is very important against the combo matchups. And this one is kind of sitting back a little bit more. So I personally I'm not a huge fan of this specific list. It's definitely cool that he was able to play Jace, and Jace was impressive in some spots, but I don't know that this is the way that I would go if I were playing this list.
I definitely think it's interesting. Like when you look at pairing a 2-drop with Liliana, obviously Dark Confidant's been the one. That way you have a steady stream of cards. But this deck sort of does the interesting thing where, like with Jace, you can either have a card to flash back and still always represent a spell on your turn, but also if you are drawing a card and then you want to loot a card, so you can see 2 cards before and decide which one you want to discard to and cast. And with Liliana, just Michael Majors, as was already shown with his his tutelage win a couple weeks ago, likes having decisions, and this deck offers a ton of decisions, so it's pretty cool.
Another thing that was a little weird about this deck were the 3 Molten Rains on the board. I feel like Fulminator Mage is probably just better.
Not with Jace.
How so?
You can't flash back a Fulminator Mage with Jace.
Guess.
Jace can flash back Molten Rain.
I guess.
I'm not kidding. I would almost guarantee that's the reason for that over it.
I suppose. I mean, I think I'd rather have the option of Kolaghan's Commanding back.
Hey, it's not his fault that you are hateful towards Jace. Have you casted Jace yet?
I actually have not.
Okay.
But I understand how good it is.
Talking to me from someone who was also unsure about the card and then saw the light.
No, yeah.
Just cast a couple Jaces. No. You were going to change your mind.
No, I trust you. I know. I've seen it in action.
I've casted Jason Limited. It was real good in Limited. Tell you that
oh, it's good in Limited?
Yeah, it was real good.
So is it just me or I find it really, really funny that Twin didn't top 8 this event, but top 8 in Legacy?
Oh yeah. That's right.
Yes, I do find that to be quite interesting. Now, going forward, so we do want to point out some interesting things. There's only one Amulet Bloom list and one of the Grizzlebrand list that show up and make day 2. How many do we have a number of Tron? How many Tron actually showed up.
Metagame breakdown. I know there's 2 in the top 16, which is scary. But
Yeah.
it looks like Tron had just 2. So the one that took 9th and 11th, those are the ones that day 2.
Okay.
So,
so those it's surprising to me to see those lists kind of fall off. But now that we see that Jund has won the Modern, usually there's a ripple effect when these things happen. So when
don't talk about it.
I'm just saying those decks could potentially be on the rise with the win for Jund. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. Obviously, it wasn't saturated with Jund or your Green Black X in the top 16 or top 32, but it is something to take note of. To prep for Cincinnati. We won't really have we'll have small, technically there's Modern in the Players Championship, right? But
the World Championship.
Yeah, World Championship.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's hard to really draw from that when you have such a small player base, playing Modern, unless something absolutely breaks out that we don't know of.
I definitely think it's really interesting to see how the format is. You mentioned Tron, but there are 8 copies of Burn that made it to day 2, 1 in the top 32. People, what are people doing? I'm trying to go through these lists and look. You know what I mean? And it could just be a bad day for Burn, I suppose. But it seems impressive to me to be the second most highest. Or I guess it's tied for second with Jund, but for day 2, and to just put up no showing, just interesting to me.
Yeah, I think we can look at the metagame breakdown. I don't know how much stock I would put into it. I mean, obviously, I would say that the decks that are always going to be there are going to be your Grixis Control, Burn, Jund, twin decks, whether it's just straight blue red or Grixis, Affinity, any number of the company decks. I mean, you can expect to see these at every tournament.
Yeah.
Obviously, this particular tournament had one Amulet Bloom and the one Gristlebrand Shoal deck, which I feel like those have definitely been waning in popularity. For sure. I don't know about that much, though. I mean, Amulet Bloom is still a deck that you need to be prepared for, because if you're not, you're just going to lose. It's just as easy as that.
That's kind of like the dredge of the format. People stop getting prepared, and all of a sudden, people are getting bloomed.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, and we've talked about this before. I mean, that deck is very skill intensive. So maybe there are just not a lot of people playing it. I don't know how many were overall in the tournament. Maybe the people that were playing it had a lot of experience. We don't really know. But in any case, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see the next large Modern tournament we have with the WMCQ. I wouldn't be surprised to see 2 of them in the top 8.
I mean, since the Open as well.
Right.
Can we, before we get off Modern, can we take a look at the 13th place list? I'm really excited about this deck. Really excited about this deck. This is Blue-White Control. This is Sun Titan Control. Sun Titan Control getting things back, including Pilgrim's Eye. Oh my god. Casting Pilgrim's Eye in Modern.
Oh, the value.
Court Hussar, right? Oh my gosh. Lone Missionary.
These are all main deck.
Yeah. Wall of Omens. Mortipod. Aether Spellbomb. And it's playing commands, at least. Not cryptic commands, though.
Ojutai's commands.
Ojutai's commands. Oh, man. They get back Wall of Omens.
Yes, they do.
And Lone Missionaries. Hey, Burn. I'll gain 8 and get this creature back. How does that sound?
Gain 8, block your Goblin Guide.
This I have no idea if this is good or not, but this deck really excites me.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. This deck looks horrendous.
3 Emeria the Sky Ruin, getting back all those tasty creatures. Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know about this one, but
I do like. So I just mentioned the 3 Emerias, but then I just noticed that there's only 11 planes, so that might be hard to do, but it's all right.
You could do it. I believe in this deck.
Now this deck obviously seems a little cute, but I mean, to navigate this field to get to here, I give the guy credit. It's pretty impressive. And man, Sun Titan is still a great Magic card. When Sun Titan essentially says, hey, get a 6/6, also get this thing that does something relevant, and then if you get to attack with it once, you're probably not losing that game. So, I like this deck. I think it's pretty nifty.
I don't disagree with you. It's cool to see different things show up in Modern. Especially when you have something like the reason Cloudstone Curio is starting to surge and CVM playing an Elves deck with that and Evolutionary Leap. So thanks, CVM.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that he fizzled out on day 2 because I don't really want to see that deck.
Well, I definitely think so. Think of what you will of this blue-white control deck. It has 4 Supreme Verdicts across the 75, and I can attest that. I mean, if you look at all the Naya company decks and Abzan company decks and Merfolk and anything else, and even Jund and Abzan, a Verdict can blow them out. It generally represents easily a 3-for-1 in this format because people don't play around it, and a lot of the decks can't play around it. So I think it's important to note that, like, if you look at that, there's some cool cards in this, but maybe that's the card we should look at that's probably really well positioned in the format.
Yeah, just rats in general.
Yeah, here's the reason why I don't like this deck. And you're right. Like in some matchups, yeah, you're just going to cast a Sun Titan, and they're not going to be able to kill it, and you're just going to go crazy or whatever. I don't know how this beats a combo deck. I really don't see it.
They play a Dispel.
Yeah. I mean, it has a couple counter spells, but I mean, the combo deck's prepared for counters. Like, I don't know how this ever beats Amulet Bloom. I don't really know. I guess Meddling Mage.
It's a fair question. Meddling Mage. So how interesting is Meddling Mage with Ojusi's command? Like, all right, I finally killed the Meddling Mage. Oh no. No, I agree with you. It's probably not well positioned against a combo meta, but guess what? This wasn't a combo meta.
No, it was not at all.
I'd be interested to see what the matchups were that he played against. But in any case, I mean, good on him. 13th place with this. Definitely something different.
See, even that question, like I would agree with that question. Even like in the old open system, like okay, so like you top, if you top 16 across 8 rounds, like maybe you need to play 14, 15 rounds to get to this point. So I don't know. It probably isn't a deck that you're going to see again. I don't see it like taking over Modern by any means. But you assess a meta. You say, you know what? I want to play Supreme Verdicts and do these things and see if people can stop me. And you know what? A lot of people couldn't.
Yeah. Let's put it this way: if Shaheen Sarani hasn't broken blue-white control in Modern yet, it's probably not going to happen.
I will grant you that. He was too busy playing it in Legacy. And that's what we call a segue.
That's true, even though we're going to talk about Standard next. But you tried.
Why?
We can go to Legacy. It's fine. We'll just do it backwards.
Come on. That's just you being a jerk.
We tried.
No, that's just you being a jerk.
Fine. I mean, okay, so Legacy IQ. Legacy IQ was won by CVM because he dropped from the Modern one and then, won the Legacy IQ because, whatever. He's playing Omnitel, which he has been playing forever, as far as I know.
I don't understand why you got so upset. It's in the show notes. You're going to talk about it either way.
It is, but maybe I just want to go in order because I'm idiosyncratic about it. I don't know. Also, with made top 8 was Shaheen Sarani and then Jerry Thompson as well, making top 8 of the Legacy Open. Not Legacy Open, Legacy IQ. Excuse me.
Interesting that you mentioned Jerry Thompson. Now he actually played obviously in the main event and went like 0-2 drop basically and he played the Grishol brand deck. Mm-hmm. So even he wasn't able to make day 2 with it or even get close. So it's interesting. I mean, maybe he just had a couple bad matchups in a row.
Sure, but he was definitely playing aggressive control and not the crowd favorite, not the teamer shardless teamer
in Legacy. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
not teamer.
Sultai.
Shardless Sultai.
Yeah. He was on there for a while. I'm not totally sure on this. To be fair, though, recently he sort of played whatever the wind blows him. Like,
that's true.
The deck. And he does pretty well with them. Definitely liking the Jace Vryn's Prodigy in his list in Legacy. A card is obscene.
It's showing up everywhere. Definitely earning its price tag, I guess.
More Jace Vryn's Prodigy in his Legacy deck than Jace the Mind Sculptor. 2-1.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Who's the more powerful Jace now?
2-1.
I mean, one costs 2 mana, the other one costs 4.
Yeah, exactly. You do the math.
And Legacy. That sounds like a bad G.I. Joe commercial. One costs 4, the other costs 2, kids. You do the math. And now you know.
G.I. Joe.
So we do we did talk about Shaheen. He was playing Esper Stoneblade to no one's shock.
Lingering Souls, etc.
And he also, from what I understand, he also just conceded to CVM. So
yeah, CVM is in the running for the Season 3
leader
points list. Yeah, so he definitely gained a little bit of ground. I figured who he's chasing. Is it Danny Jessup?
I'll have to check.
I know Danny Jessup finished 9th in the standard IQ. So
it's Danny Jessup, who is currently 3rd, and CVM is 5th, and Ross Merriam is in between them at 4th.
You haven't seen him in a couple weeks.
Yeah, he's been doing stuff.
I don't think he's been going. I don't know.
I'm
sure he'll be
GPs, was he not?
Yeah.
Like he was in the actual GPs. That's why he was not.
He's on a different.
Who goes
train,
to those?
Pursuing a different.
He's done
path.
okay on those. So I don't know.
No.
Top 8. Which one did he top 8?
I don't know.
Was it San Diego or London? He top 8 at one of them.
Yeah, it was a recent one, I thought.
I think it was before that. Anyway.
So moving on, we'll take a quick brief glance at standard because it was a pretty interesting finals. It was 2 combo decks.
So we just talk about like the most like non-combo meta in this huge modern open, and then standard has 2 combo decks in the finals. I don't even understand.
Nicholas Charland playing Abzin Rally defeated Jeskai Ascendancy combo.
Where did these decks come from? Abzi and Rally we haven't seen since the Pro Tour.
You know what? So if you are playing Abzin aggro and you're playing against Abzin Rally and you don't have an Infenza, that's a hard game. It's a hard match, probably. I imagine not a lot of interaction that you have with them.
I agree.
Are you suggesting that Abzin Rally has a good matchup against Abzin aggro?
If they can kill Anafenza, yes.
Don't they just like get their entire like? Let me make sure I'm not insane. They look at this list because like the traditional lists, yes, that are trying to win with Marauders and Tuco Husk also can't get past. They can't get past Hangerback Walker. Like their sack effects aren't even good against Hangerback Walker. Like that's one of the main issues. I guess if it's better for them if there's no Anafenza in play, but like Hangerback Walker also just shuts down half their ability to combo off the way they want to.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, it definitely relies on Abzin aggro playing a different game than it's probably used to. I would have to imagine. Because you need certain cards to be able to win, but they just need to do what they do to be able to win. You know what I'm trying to say?
I don't know. I guess I would have to like play this matchup a bunch to agree with that sentiment. But I definitely think like even at the Pro Tour, it was mentioned that not a lot of people played Abs and aggro, but the people that did like had good win matchups pretty against like anything. That was one of the things that kept Rally down.
And I mean in general, I don't know if you've seen on MTG Goldfish.
No, I read that. Yeah, the article's great actually, and how it has an aggro beats everything.
Right, exactly.
No one plays it and it beats everything.
Right.
Interesting how that works.
So it could just be that this less no one was really prepared for it, so it kind of just ran over a bunch of people. But I can definitely see Jeskai Ascendancy combo having a good weekend just for the sheer fact that sometimes you can just win and win and win with that deck because no one has anything to do against it.
Yeah, I think we saw
command?
What?
Jamoka's command?
It's so true.
It could play it and then go off, but
yeah.
I don't know how often you played against that deck, but that's what it does. It rarely puts an Ascendancy in play for very long before you just die. Yeah. Like we saw at the Pro Tour, a skilled player with this deck, someone who is methodical and knows what they're doing with this deck, can definitely run over unprepared players. And just like we mentioned how deck Dredge can show up like it did in Vintage, or this is the kind of deck where everyone's like, look at all these creature decks, and then the Ascendancy combo was like, hey, remember me? Yeah, you did.
This deck definitely has 2 Days Undoing in it as well, so it's kind of sweet.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, I'm sure that that could be something you want to do. I'm not sure. I've never played this deck, but seems like drawing 7 could be fine.
Well, the cool thing about this deck with Days Undoing as well is that you can actually, just Jeskai Ascendancy aside, you can actually put out a large number of the combo pieces and let them sit there because you end up wanting to Retraction Helix them back anyways. So you could just be like, oh, cool, play my Altar the Brood, play my Briber's Purse. Like, there's not a lot of exiling artifacts going on. So it's like, even if they manage to remove it, you're going to Days Undoing. And then, like, you can bounce anyway. So it's kind of, you can kind of set, like, I feel like this deck could probably set itself up for Days Undoing in a really, really good fashion.
Also, kind of what you're saying, too, even if you're not going off and killing them, you can, like, Retraction Helix a bunch of permanents back to their hand, and then Days Undoing. They can shuffle them all back in.
I mentioned that mono blue deck. That's what it was doing to me. It was like, oh, cool, Siege Rhino. Here's Sidisi's Faithful. Days Undoing. Like, what? Where'd my board state go? I don't understand.
An interesting thing to see out of the sideboard of this list, too, is it does have 2 Monastery Mentor. So that could be a way that it was also just killing people when they decided out all of their removal spells, and then this guy went turn 3 Monastery, or turn 2 theoretically Monastery Mentor. Go.
Yeah, it's kind of, that seems like a weird number to me.
Yeah,
having 2.
You think it'd be 4 or none?
Yeah, like, and we saw this kind of like there were some legacy Omnitel lists that had like 2 young Pyromancers on the board. And it's just like, okay, like if you're boarding these in to like get them after sideboard, like wouldn't you want like the full force that you always hit it? I don't know, but maybe you just draw enough cards with this where the 2 is fine.
I mean, whenever you're talking about a combo deck, like even if you're trying to reduce your ability to combo off consistently, you have to have the cuts for it. So it could just be a thing where
Yeah, you just don't have enough cards to bring out.
Right.
Yeah, I can get that.
so
Awesome. Well, that was the standard IQ.
a lot of heroic it looks like as well. It's at least in the top 8. That's it. It's interesting.
That is interesting. Seems like a lot of non-interactive decks that top 8'd. Oh boy, standard's an interesting place sometimes.
If you look at 9th through 16th, it's like, oh, that's where all the Abzan decks went.
So I'm glad to see my my counterpart Michael Kinney taking 13th.
Good job.
Abzan aggro.
Let's see. I'm looking at his list. Let's see here. We played the exact same deck, except for one Den Protector for the for a Wingmate Rock in the main.
That's crazy. You guys are
and I played a second Temple of Silence and not the third Forest.
interesting. Wow. That's
High
pretty
five
creepy.
to the internet, bro. We did it.
All right. So let's move on. Let's go ahead and dive into our question of the week, and it's a kind of serious one, I guess. So over the weekend, this made national news, so you probably have all heard about it if you're listening to this podcast. But during the Pokemon World Championships, basically security was alerted on Thursday to 2 players that had posted threats on Facebook. On Saturday, the players were arrested after police found a shotgun, an AR-15 rifle, and a hunting knife in their car. And as of today, they were denied bail. And this was 2 people. This wasn't a Magic tournament, obviously, but a very high-profile Pokemon tournament. And but something like this could easily happen at a Magic event. Again, the question we pose is, are you concerned with the safety security at a large tournament? Will this make you reconsider attending tournaments in the future? Who wants to start?
I guess I will. So I'm going to just start by answering the questions directly. Am I concerned with safety and security at large tournaments? Yes, but in the same way that I'm concerned about safety and security at large anythings. And to that point, will it make me reconsider attending a tournament in the future? No, it hasn't made me reconsider going to a concert. It hasn't made me reconsider attending a school function. These are things that can happen. Do I wish that there was more chances to stop this from happening? And this was stopped from happening. So please, kudos to everybody involved who took the proper steps. This is posted in a Facebook group. Admins of that group were like, "Whoa, this is not okay. I'm contacting the police." And then the police, were there to literally block them from entering the tournament hall, which is, pretty impressive communication from across multiple states. So kudos to everyone involved, and bravo on stopping what could have been a terrifying situation. But we've seen, with every terrible tragedy we've had, Boston just, fairly recently having the marathon bombings, all the way back to Columbine, any of this stuff. You can put up all the measures you want. You can have terrible things happen. You can expect safety, but know that individuals can stop that. I think it's, maybe I'm pessimistic about this, and I am a pessimistic person, so I'll say it. But I do think that it's always going to be up to the individual, right? I can take, I can make good decisions about the places I go. I can make good decisions about how I handle myself. But at the end of the day, if someone decides to do this, we've seen even through the highest security, it still happens.
Yeah, I think the thing for me that I guess the scariest thing is, like, I guess I never really thought about this type of thing like happening at a Magic tournament, but it makes sense. I mean, like, we went to GP Richmond last year, which was 4,000 something people. It's like, that's a lot of people in one place, and if somebody just wanted to show up with guns and ammo and just start going to town, it's like a lot of people are going to get hurt or killed. You know what I mean? And they're really, if you go to a Magic tournament, there's really no security in place. You pretty much can just walk in, and everybody has bags. And I guess it's scary to think about. I mean, will it make me reconsider attending? No. But again, this definitely made me think a little bit, and kind of how something could go wrong. And I think, like, I feel like this could have easily just been just a horrible thing that happened. I think a lot of people that are hearing about it, and even just like people that I've seen that that are not gamers, just like, oh, ha, 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 I guess they really take the tournament seriously. It's like, I mean, this was so close to just being a national tragedy. Like I don't know how you can joke about that. So I mean, I don't know. I think it's something that needs to be taken very seriously.
There's whole other arguments for the people's desensitization to violence, and they're not or unable to comprehend things that they haven't seen firsthand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what do you think, Morgan?
I don't know. I mean, so most convention halls, things like that, have some level of security around people that usually have the word security at least written on their shirt. From what I've seen, typically you see this with probably larger events that happen. So like Gen Con, you see people that are clearly like security officers and stuff like that.
To be fair, you also see a number of shirts that say inmate numbers on them.
That's true.
So.
But
You gotta watch out for those people.
Legitimate security people, not necessarily legitimate convicts, but maybe. So like that is something. Obviously you can't just walk around with a personal detail everywhere you go. Like that's just not possible. You just have to, really do your best to, keep your wits about you, keep your senses about you, which in all honesty you should already be doing in a Magic tournament, just because you're carrying a lot of your property with you. And there's people out there that would like to take that property from you. Not saying they're rampant in the community or anything like that, but it could happen. So always being vigilant about your surroundings is, I think, something that's pretty valuable for a Magic player at a large tournament in the first place. So this, by extension, is something you may want to keep an eye on. I mean, there, like Mike said, there's not really necessarily a whole lot you could do from stopping terrible people from doing terrible things, except being vigilant in your own community. So I would say that while we can't necessarily have maximum security at every Magic tournament, we can definitely be better people at policing our own communities, and making sure that if there is something that is sticking out, there's something egregious that happened likely that happened in this personal community, that we reach out to the correct people to make sure that we don't let something terrible happen. And I think that's probably the most important takeaway, is that people did do that and stop something from happening. So as long as we in our own communities can be vigilant about that, then we can go a long way to prevent any of this from ever happening at a Magic tournament, and prevent any needless loss of life or anything like that. And as far as reconsidering going to any tournaments, I can't say that it would deter me. I mean, if I was deterred by going to things because of all the terrible things that happen in the world, then I would just never leave my home. And
even your home would be a terrifying place.
Correct. It's full of spiders. So you can't necessarily...
He's not wrong.
Burn it down.
You can't necessarily let the actions of terrible people scare you from living your life and doing things you enjoy, because then you won't do anything at all. And you have to like I said earlier, be vigilant and be aware of your surroundings, but you have to continue to live your life and pursue your passions regardless of what whatever evil may exist in the world, because if you don't, then you're just letting that evil win.
I think that's a fair point. Referring, poor Boston, to be quite honest. But like looking at the Boston Marathon, like the fact that they just did it, again, like we're doing this, like stay out of here, is a testament to that idea of that human spirit. Like what? No, you're not going to stop this.
Yeah, they picked the wrong city to try to plan something for. But like I was saying, I mean, it made me think. And it also made me think, like, I've been playing Magic for a long time. And over the course of my Magic playing career, I've come to meet, a lot of different characters. And definitely thought about, like, man, I've definitely known, like, more than a handful of people that were probably a little bit more than unstable and, maybe could have done something,
So let me think about this, okay? If you're saying you've never thought about this before.
Not that I never,
well,
but
no, I'm saying, like, so if we went to GP Richmond, right? how many weapons were in the room. How many people were carrying guns with them, legally carrying guns with them. And they probably, most convention centers have something about, not carrying guns in, but they're not getting scanned.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's not something you think about. And honestly, the whole point of like concealed carry, things like that, is most rational adults, can hold a weapon and not randomly shoot people. It's kind of this crazy thing. But it does take the actual crazy people, to sort of take it a step further. Now, I mentioned earlier, I wanted to sort of tie this back into what we talked about at the beginning of the cast with the transparency or the lack of transparency from Wizards. We knew all the information about this really quickly. I've not attended a Pokemon tournament in my life. We know people who do. Friend of the show, JP, is not just an L2 judge in Magic, also a Pokemon professor, which is the coolest title for a judge in the world.
Yes.
And we know a number of players who also enjoy that circuit as well. So there's people there we knew, and I think it was handled well. All the information came out. Here's the things that happened. They were stopped. This information was communicated well. And yet Wizards bans people for harassment and can't do anything but dredge up a 3-year-old, a 3-year-old press release on it, like a release from there. And that's awkward because, what if the things said in that had been, to that point? I'm not suggesting they were because I don't know. But what if they had gone to that point? It's weird that there's such a difference when you can see really the good that transparency did. I mean, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a subject that is kind of scary to take a look at, as being people that attend large tournaments all the time, and hopefully that it's something we don't have to worry about. So
I guess that's always the hope, is that this is something bad that almost happened and didn't, and hopefully it never happens.
Fingers crossed. All right, well, let's tie everything up here. We have a bit to talk about here in the wrap up, so let's go ahead and discuss the local tournaments first. Now, before we even get started into that, we actually were provided a tool to use to actually find local tournaments. Our buddy Elliot, who's been on the cast before, sent me a link to scry.land, which is basically a local tournament finder. You can set it so it'll go look in to current week or next week or the week after that, so weeks in advance, where you can actually find basically different types of tournaments for different formats that are happening in your area, or any area you want to look at realistically, which is awesome. And it tells you what format it is, what kind of tournament it is, where it's being located, and it gives you all the pertinent information you would need to go to attend that event. So it's an awesome tool, and it's you just go to your web browser and type in scry.land.
Now, is that like a Google Maps type deal? I mean, it's much.
I'm looking at it right now.
It's very similar.
It looks like a Google Maps overlay. So
yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
But either way, yeah, it's a fantastic tool. So we do suggest you using it, and that's what we're going to use to try to find these tournaments, basically.
Trust me, it's better than trying to scour the Wizards website trying to find out where and when PPTQs are, because I've done that, and it's not pretty.
Like, the key is really intuitive too. Like, I just zoomed out, and I can already just see that there is a huge IQ in Columbus, which we'll talk about.
Yes.
There's a PPTQ in the Akron area, and one in Cincinnati, and one in Detroit. And this is great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elliot.
Yes, thank you so much. There is a Star City Games 5K that is going to be at the Columbus Convention Center. It's going to be standard. And then there are going to be 2 PPTQs, one on both on Sunday.
Yes.
So one is going to be...
one of them is at Dirium's CCGs in Cuyahoga Falls.
Yes. And then the other one is going to be a two-headed game, at Highland, Kentucky. So both of them are going to be unstandard from what we can see.
So I will tell you, if you decide to make the trek up to Dirium's, it is the local store of Musser and crew in that area. So
yeah, so have fun.
It'll be competitive. Even if it's not the largest tournament you've played in, it'll be a competitive tournament.
Yeah, you'll have a good slogging to go through.
He may be at the Star City Invitational. So
I will say that whole crew, though, Brian Baker, Scotty Doolittle.
A lot of good players. A lot of good players that play there.
For sure.
So that's going to be awesome. If you're going to be playing some Magic this weekend, you have plenty of options. I mean, you could also just be going to Somerset, New Jersey for the Invitational if you so desire and are qualified.
I am, but I'm moving.
Aw.
Poorly timed.
It's going to be Standard and Legacy for this one. And then they also have, the Standard Open as well as Legacy and Modern IQs on Sunday. On the Standard Open Saturday and Sunday. And then there's going to be the 2015 World Championships that you can watch. They start on Thursday, which is fantastic. It's always nice to...
Super excited about that.
Yeah, it's always awesome when you can, I have the luxury of being able to work at a job where I can listen to music and stuff like that. So you have the Twitch app and you can put it on audio only and you can just listen to the coverage while you work. It's perfect. It's great. And so that starts on Thursday. With 3 rounds of Modern Masters 2015 draft and then 4 rounds of Modern. And then day 2 will be on Friday, which is going to be 3 rounds of Magic Origins and then 4 rounds of Standard. And the top 4 playoff will be on Sunday. Top 4 will be up on Sunday on the 30th and will be Standard, will be Standard. And then we also have PAX Prime this weekend, obviously, which is where all this kind of taking place. And we have the Battle for Zendikar preview show.
Yeah, we get the Magic Party, and we got all the cool oversized cards. You can see all the cool and awesome
now,
things.
see, this is different, though. I don't know if there's actually going to be cards at the party, because they're doing the preview show, which is not something they've typically done.
Yeah, this is going to be just a strict Battle for Zendikar.
That's fine. Hit me with all the info. I'm fine.
Exactly. Now, there also are going to be other Magic panels throughout the weekend as well. And kind of tie everything up, but I already kind of went into this. So, who's going to win the World Championship and why? And I said Steve Rubin. I really feel like he's on a heater and can definitely pull it off. So, Mike?
I might steal Dave's. I'm picking Mike Siegrist. I think you're talking about heaters. How does he not go from relative like known but unknown to top hitting Pro Tour to Player of the Year to I'm also gonna. It's got to be his, right? He's literally gonna be like heating up and actually just on fire.
He's on fire.
It's put a card in the graveyard and and it's sorry guys.
Just hit the turbo. All right, Dave.
Nice. So I'm actually gonna go with Ifro.
Oh.
I think losing out on Player of the Year maybe is gonna light a fire.
Yeah.
And maybe give him a little bit of extra motivation to try to take down the World Championship. I will say it would be cool to see Shahar win the 3-peat.
Yeah, just at the edge of the 3-peat. Just not do anything for pretty much all Magic year and just win the World Championship again and being well, I'll see you guys next year.
Yeah.
Hey, this is cool. Can we keep doing this? Yeah. I will say it's been cool to see them pros on Twitter talking about how difficult it is to test for this format and the statements I know everything about these formats and know nothing about these formats. It's been pretty interesting. It makes me happy there's a lot of mental anguish, right? It's how it should be. So,
all right. Well, that's been this episode of At Your End Step. Please, follow us on Twitter. We are at Your End Step on Twitter. Also find us on Facebook. It's just facebook.com/@YourEndStep. Also check out our lovely sponsor, Comic Town. Their Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. I also have a Twitter, which is just at Comic Town, I believe. So follow them on Twitter if that's your deal, if that's your thing. Subscribe to us on iTunes. It's the easiest way to get the podcast. Also, we have our website at YourEndStep.com where the episodes show up as well.
Where the wild things are.
Where the wild things are. Lastly, we have MTG Cast. That's also where our show gets posted amongst various other wonderful, very, very special podcasts.
A number of which also reached 100. It was kind of cool to be a part of a celebration with 2 or 3 other casts.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, they're our fellow cast brethren, if you will.
So, and then they're also trying to skin puppies for coats this week. That's weird.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of Disney villains.
A lot of Cruella de Vil's out there.
Dave, you looked really confused. I'm making yet
No,
another
I
one.
got it.
Okay.
Yeah, before you said this, I'm like, what?
Anyway, summations.
He's
we'll tell it after the pass.
Do people get banned for that?
The look of like, why are we talking about skinning puppies? I don't understand.
It doesn't actually happen.
Disney did it first. I don't know what to tell you.
Anyway, well, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We'll catch you guys next week, and you have a great one.